On my channel, I've been asking pro tennis players what their best piece of advice is for aspiring pros. Last week I hit with Toby Martin at Queen's Club and I wasn't going to pass up the opportunity to ask him the same question. Toby has loads of experience playing professional tournaments and has reached a career high of 641 in singles and 490 in doubles. Toby's answer is packed with some great information for players, parents and coaches, so taking some notes might be a good idea. Let's take a listen.
I think first and foremost, obviously making sure you get the right support around you is pretty key. I think if you're a lot younger, obviously, definitely listen to your coaches, but do your due diligence. I think when you're a little bit older, it's a bit different actually. I think, of course, you trust your coaches and you listen to them, but actually a lot of the decisions I've made, if I look back, actually, I wish I trusted myself and my gut a little bit more. So I'd say, initially, make sure you have the right support around you. That's key, because at the end of the day, if you're an aspiring pro and you're not like a phenom, it's going to take you a little while.
Exactly.
So, I don't just mean like obviously financial support. That's great, but just get a good bunch of people around you. Get a coach who is with you in the low moments, as well as obviously everyone wants to be your best friend when you're winning, but when you're losing, get someone who's like in the trenches with you. It goes a long way, I think. And try and have an idea of how you want to play. I kind of think that your personality should match your playing style a little bit. So if you're quite risky or more gambling, then play like that. Obviously you have to understand that you're going to cough up more errors, but then if you're a bit more reserved, a bit more risk-free, then play like that. Don't go. I would say, it's important to improve your whole game. Come forward, all this good stuff. Everyone loves to say you should come forward more, but to be honest, at the end of the day, tennis is a game of unforced errors. The least amount of unforced errors you make, the more chance you're going to win. Now, don't get me wrong, it means you have to have the right quality and things like that. But that kind of ties back into making sure you get the right support, like an S&C coach, tennis coach, obviously parents. I'd say with regards to if there's parents out there, be a parent, don't be a tennis coach. It's important to. With tennis, it's a very tough journey, and a lot of tennis players tie their worth, especially when you're a kid, to how well you do on the court.
I'd say the exact same thing a lot.
And I think it's really important to understand, you're a tennis player, and obviously, individually we care about our sport, but you're not just a tennis player, you're more than that. So as a parent, it's important to make sure you support them and understand that there's more to life than playing tennis. And as I really feel especially between the ages of 18 to 24, I think it's really hard, honestly, because you're kind of figuring out who you are. Up until that point, you're kind of told you're a son, you're the eldest sibling, you're this, that, the other. Whereas when you get to 20, 21, 22, you start to figure out more about yourself, what you like, what you don't like. So, and then when you get to 24, 25, I think it's less so you actually care too much about what other people think, quite honestly. You kind of go your own path. And so I'd say obviously support, self-trust when you get a little bit older. Trust yourself throughout, have faith in yourself, really important, belief and all that good stuff. And then enjoy it. To be honest, I'm 31 now, and it ties in, obviously, the better you get, the more enjoyable it's going to be. So if you're struggling in areas of your game, try and iron them out as best as possible. I changed my forehand grip when I was 29 years old.
Right, interesting.
So that took me a good 6, 7, 8 months to really get
What were you before?
I was fully Western, and now I'm I'd say
semi.
Yeah, semi, closer to maybe Eastern.
Right, interesting.
And that made a big difference in my happiness on court, regardless of results I was achieving. I was generally happy. I didn't worry too much about my forehand, all this good stuff. So if you've got issues in your game, trust yourself. I wish I made that decision earlier.
Right,
if I'm honest, that's why I'm going back to trust yourself. I knew that when I was a little bit younger that I should have made that decision. But at the end of the day, it's a journey, and get out there, compete. You got to really love to compete. That's probably the biggest lesson I've learned from the guys who I know who have then subsequently made it. You got to be you got to compete all the time. I think too many people just hit tennis balls. It's just really not applicable to match tennis. You got to want to play sets, want to play points, put things on it, put a Coke on it or a coffee or whatever.
Practice the pressure, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can't as there's no substitute for it. And from, as I said, the guys that I've trained with, Evo, Cam Norrie, Carl Edmund, they, especially Evo, super competitive. Anything, through the middle, he wouldn't care less. But when it comes to competing, he was the loudest guy in the hall. You knew you were in for a tough time, and that's just practice. Out of the hands, first to 11 or a set or whatever. So I think that's
just make everything competitive.
Yeah, because it teaches you to understand how to, when you're practicing, it's a lot about feel. Like for example, let's say you're not happy with the backhand, right? You're hitting lots of backhand scores. So in a match, this just doesn't happen. Right? And when people start losing, they go back to the feeling of a shot, like a backhand or a forehand or so. I don't feel like that's irrelevant, to be perfectly honest with you. Like it really is. It's about like competing, finding a way to get at your opponent, break your opponent down. Don't turn the sword in on yourself. Like at the end of the day, you're like trying to fight your opponent, right? So a lot of people, when things start going bad, they talk about the feeling of the shot. No one cares, unfortunately. Like you can do that stuff after the match, but once you're playing the match, like just compete like a dog and find a way to try your best to win, really.
I think a lot of players struggle with transferring training to matches.
Completely.
And I think it's because you just hit like cross court for like an hour.
Right? Exactly. You don't play points.
If you play competitive, even if it's like a technical drill, you make it competitive, you transfer that feeling to a match. And I think that's so important.
Completely. Actually, funny enough, I once did some work with a guy called Andre Pavel, who made 13 in the world. He's a phenomenal player, beat Federer, all this good stuff. And he was telling me an amazing story where once he broke into the top 100, I think he went all the way to like 40 or 50. He won Tokyo 500 at the time, which is a big tournament, obviously. Anyway, the next year, I think this is 2003 or 4, he went on an 11-match losing streak.
Right.
And he was in, I think it was Morocco. He was due to be practicing with Karlovic, or he was practicing with Karlovic. And Karlovic had just hired a new French coach, I believe, who'd previously been working with Roddick. This is before Roddick won the US Open. But, I think he obviously did a really good job with Roddick and whatever. Anyway, so basically, the coach was like, said to Andre, let's play a set. And Andre was like, to be honest, I don't really want to play. Like, I'm not really feeling too good. My forehand's not good. My backhand's not good. He was like, okay, well, let's play a short set. Anyway, they played a set. I think they ended up playing a couple of sets. And so Andre's on the way back to his hotel, and the coach on the minibus, and the coach sits down next to him and says to him, Andre, like, run me through what's going on. I mean, you broke through to the top 100. You obviously, you won Tokyo 500. You won some big events. Like, tell me what's going on this year. He was like, like I'm just not feeling my back. I mean, his backhand's like one of the most beautiful. If you don't know who Andre Pavel is, check out his backhand. It's a single hand. It's one of the most beautiful shots you can see. But his backhand, he said it wasn't firing. His forehand wasn't firing. All this good stuff. And the coach was like, that's your problem. And Andre was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, if you're constantly worrying about how a shot feels, what are you going to do at 4:30 or in the third set? Think about how a forehand feels rather than actually like your opponent. And ever since then, like he basically played sets every single day.
Interesting.
During his career, well, not every day, but you know what I mean. Like he played far more sets then, and he realised like sets is what's matters. Like compete. And also people just tend to play one set. Play matches. Play like best of 5 sets, because it's not just the technical aspect or the moving of that, it's the mental application. Like you've got to be there.
Super interesting.
For the whole time. You can't let in a singles match, you work so hard for momentum, and it can easily be given away. So you've got to be there the whole time. And so I'm an advocate of like, if you play sets, okay, you can play a set here or there, but play 2 sets. And a match tiebreak or whatever. Like make it applicable to actually competitive situations.
I actually can't remember the last time I played like a full like best of 3 set match in training. Like you always play like one set and then you move on. And
I think I used to, when I was down in Bath, we used to play like a best of 5 set on Friday, maybe every other week. I think it wasn't every week. And like by the end of the week, you're absolutely knackered, and then having to play a best of 5 set match was like, it was brutal. But again, it teaches you to stay in there. Like you have to focus mentally for that long. It's not easy. So
Alright, so I hope you were able to learn something in that. So much great stuff on such a variety of topics. I'd recommend watching that a few times to make sure you take everything in. If you want to hear more pro players answer the same question, then check out these 2 videos.